So we're here chatting with Troy Gordon. Thanks very much for joining us on Smokin Bulls today, Troy. We're here to chat about your business, find out about what makes it tick and how you got into it and all that fun stuff. So just a big thank you for being here.
Well, thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. My first podcast, so I'm excited and nervous at the same time, and it's awesome. So thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Don't worry. This is like our maybe 30th podcast, so we're not that far ahead of you.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome.
Yeah. He talks, introduces, does all the good work, and I rant. So
perfect. Yeah, good team.
You've got, make sure that I do this right. You've got Low Impact is the name of your company. So maybe describe to us what that is. Who is Low Impact?
Yeah, I'm the president and founder of Low Impact. We started about 20 years ago, I guess, or 18 years ago. And what it is we offer a whole roster of different off-road vehicles, basically the next best thing to helicopters. And we basically pick the best in class off-road vehicles with specific payload capacities or with different payload capacities. So we go right from 1,000-pound payload with an Argo up to plus 40,000-pound payload with some of our bigger equipment, and kind of everything in between. And the best vehicles in class for different categories of payloads is kind of how it is. So a lot of them are amphibious, military machines, and so on. So
they're designed to traverse any type of terrain, basically, is what you're saying.
You betcha. Yeah. Okay. Sand, snow, swamp, mud, hills, safely, comfortably. And what we do is we originally started offering our vehicles as a service with operators. So we were traditionally an off-road service company. And in the last few years, we branched out to be a dealer for all the equipment we offer, as well as rentals. So we do sales, rentals, off-road services. We do rental purchases, and we do full support with parts and service.
Wow. And it didn't start that way. It started just as...
It just started with one Haglund, and we kind of just did jobs. People actually would call us and say, hey, I hear you have this cool machine. Have you ever did this or whatever it was? And most times it was no, but we'll try. And not every time it was successful. So we did a lot of freebies, learning and prove it. And in the process, we gained a lot of loyal customers because we'd go out and if we weren't successful, we'd say, sorry, we can't charge you. And next thing you know, they come up with 4 or 5 more jobs for us to try and do. And, we learned and built a lot of different accessories and things in our shop with, fabricating and so on. And just started designing flat decks and dump boxes and little hydrovacs and a pressure unit and all these little different attachments. And really pretty soon we were getting all kinds of calls to do different things.
So who's your closest competitor to what you do?
We have, because we do so much, there's competitors in different areas of our business, but no one that I know that does kind of everything that we do together. So we're pretty unique that way. And
so from just from the one name you said, like Haglund's or something, who's your closest dealer that can sell the same thing as you?
Well, Haglund's are pretty unique, and it was in my notes a little further on, but...
I'm jumping over it.
No, it's okay.
You're taking me as I'm prepared for this, right?
So Haglund's are unique because they're a surplus military vehicle that they haven't built since the 80s and early 90s. So we're considered a dealer because we have a direct source from Sweden where they were built, and our source is one of the few people that have permission to buy directly from the Swedish military as they declared them surplus. So this guy bought like 600 Haglunds like 20 years ago, and we are his only North American distributor dealer. He won't deal with anybody else in North America.
Wow.
So we have a really amazing, unique relationship with him. So we're a dealer for his company name is called Milmac, which is short for military machines.
Okay.
So we're the North American dealer for his company. But you can't just go to the factory and ask to be a dealer for Haglund. You have to find a source, and you also have to find sources of parts, figure out how to rebuild these things and maintain them. And
I see. So they're not being newly constructed.
No, they are, but they're armored versions now.
Oh, okay.
Which of course we can't buy, and I believe they start at $1 million. So.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
So
sounds like Buffalo Joe, trying to keep
trying to keep his planes up.
Corner the market and parts.
So that's kind of the Haglund thing. So we have kind of a unique And I mean, we could go through the different vehicles just
Well,
a
you
quick
know, what
overview.
might be useful even for us and for the viewers would be, you know, should we look at your
let's
video?
kick
He's
that
got
video.
a great
Sure,
low
yeah.
impact promotional video, which shows us, you know, kind of the type of equipment you're talking about. Because
You
I know
bet.
this will be Greek to a lot of people, and it's even pretty Greek to
Yep.
Dave and I. So some images would probably really help.
I
guess,
did
to-
watch it before, and I thought,
watched
oh,
it,
there's
yeah.
some things I want to drive.
Yeah, yeah.
Really,
like, those
a
go anywhere.
little
Yeah.
donut master.
I got a Polaris Razor, and I'm like, I can't go there. With
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and Polaris Razors are pretty amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's fun, but yeah, those things that you've got
we're
are
pretty,
really
pretty
impressive.
fortunate with the products we have, for sure.
Yeah. So where are you guys located?
Our main office and shop is in Valley View,
Okay.
northern Alberta. And then we also have a shop in Pooskoopie, which is right by Dawson Creek.
Pooskoopie. I don't know
In
if I've
BC.
even heard
Yeah,
of
What
it.
it's
a
a
name,
little-
eh? Scoop.
Yeah, it's a little town right outside of Dawson Creek, and it's awesome. So both of our locations are right on the Alaska Highway.
Okay.
So we get so much visibility, and we've got a lot of business. A lot of business has been generated just by people
by
driving
driving by, yeah.
stopping in.
Well, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, so it's been really good that way. So
I can tell you how many people pull up and knock on the door here from our sign out front.
yeah,
0.
yeah, there you go.
We're in the wrong
Maybe you need a
business.
fat truck out front
Yeah,
with
we
your
don't
name
have
on
crew.
it.
Maybe we need like
Like
one of
that,
those big air drones, like a big clear one with like dollar bills. Just keep the fan going.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Make it-
you got to find a way
Yeah.
to track them in.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna kick that video.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Yeah, this is our office in Valley View.
Oh yeah.
Look at that thing.
We
That's
had
a fat
kind of a demo day
Oh,
with some customers on this day, actually. So
Oh yeah. How do they drive it? Is it with a
it's a joystick.
Joystick?
Yeah. It's
Yeah, okay.
hydrostatic, so it's so easy to drive. One joystick,
yeah?
anybody can drive it.
That's how my lawn tractor works. It's a hydrostatic single
Yep.
joystick, zero turn.
So nice.
Yeah.
Zero turn, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at these things.
That's
So
a
it looks
Hagler.
like you added something on the front there.
Bumper, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. These things are just incredible penguins. Well, they all are, but
What kind of speed can you get up to? and
well,
stuff like
that's
that?
one of the fastest track machines out there. It does 55 kilometers an hour. And we've actually built a custom one, which I think they'll show a picture that does. We've had it doing 75 kilometers an hour.
Wow.
And not even at the end of its throttle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It looked like you driving that last machine, by the way.
It probably was. Yeah.
Got the
I gotta have
ABS
some
on,
fun.
let her go, yeah.
That's a Maruka.
Wow.
So that one doesn't float, but it definitely goes through the mud and swamp and
Yeah.
water. So
They're all little mini tanks, basically.
Nice load of sand without it getting wet.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we had that go down, and we had a representative from the factory in Quebec for the fat trucks this day.
Oh, wow.
And had a
Perfect timing
barbecue
for a
and-
video and everything then. eh?
Yeah, it worked out really, really nice. So yeah.
That's so cool.
That is super cool. Like, you just want to go and ride those around all day for fun, not work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
Find a swamp somewhere.
I'll just start with the smallest machine that we offer, which is an Argo. Everybody
Yep.
probably is familiar with Argo. They've been around for so many years, and they've improved their products so much over the years. They're not like the old Argos at all to drive with the 2 levers. Now they have handlebars and a throttle, just like driving a dirt bike.
Oh, yeah.
And they're very powerful and very nimble, and they've come up with a lot of ways of keeping their chains tight automatically, auto chain tighteners, auto chain lubes. So they've really come a long ways, and they build a commercial version that's a lot tougher than the recreational, but the recreational is still amazing. So we actually became an Argo dealer here, I think, a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And we actually did really well with them now. I think we've brought in close to 20 machines or more already, and most of them have been sold and rented, and
Yeah.
we're fabricating our own cab to make it an all-weather
Okay.
machine.
Yeah.
So that's our smallest, and that's about 1,000 to 1,500 pound payload, depending on the machine.
Yeah.
And then the next one up, so we're a local dealer for Argo for that product. And then the next one up is a fat truck, which I can't say enough about. It's just an incredible machine. So
It looks
Canadian
cool.
built,
Yeah.
It does look really
all-wheel
cool.
drive, and it floats as you've seen in the video.
Yeah,
And it's not super fast in the water, but it scoots along pretty good.
Yeah.
And what's so incredible is, the hull is kind of built like a boat. So you can sit in the middle of a pond or a lake or whatever you want, and you can take all the tire air out of the tires just to see if it would, we did it just
If
to
it's
see if
still
it would float
floating, yeah.
for safety reasons.
Yeah.
And it does. So
Cool.
the tires are just extra, life preservers in a way, but,
Yeah.
and you can open up both doors, and they're big wide doors, and you could fish out of it if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So super nice, really nimble. And as I was saying, like the hydrostatic control, it's one joystick in between the 2 front seats. So if you're left or right-handed, doesn't matter.
Works
you could
either
drive.
way, yeah.
And the other cool thing is if you're teaching somebody how to drive, you can drive for a while, let them drive for a while, take, back and forth.
Yeah.
So you could show them, or if they get nervous, you can take over.
Yeah.
And the other nice thing about hydrostatic is in the hills, there's nothing safer because you can be going up as slow as you want or as fast as you want up and down hills. And if you panic or you get into a bind, you let go of the joystick and all the
Everything
hydraulics stop the machine dead.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a brake pedal and
Right.
Just let
two
go.
levers to pull back and try and stop the machine on a hill.
Yeah.
You literally let go of the joystick and it stops.
Wow.
It's just perfect. Or if you spin out or whatever and you need to get out and hook a winch line up, you're not worried about somebody holding the brake on while you get out. So it's super safe that way. And built in Canada, fairly new, couple of year company, and so we're their Western Canadian dealer for that product, which we're extremely proud of and fortunate.
Is that a gas engine or?
It's a Caterpillar diesel engine.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
so a really nice little diesel
Lots
engine.
of torque behind that.
Yeah.
So what's its payload? What can it carry?
About 2,200 pounds.
Okay. Yeah.
And they you can put two people in the front,
Yep.
and then 6 people in the back in the crew cab version.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And they actually just came out with a pickup version. So 2 people in the front, and then the back is open. So you could put a fuel tank or
Oh, right.
Lots of
Yeah.
things.
a sprayer for vegetation control, things like that in the back. And I think we'll have our first one in January or February.
Cool.
And I believe I was just actually talking to a guy earlier this week that might order 9 of them for a drilling project in New Brunswick.
Oh, wow.
So we're
Nice order.
we're pretty excited about the Fat Truck products and being part of their team and being able to promote their product.
Nice.
So it's kind of it's a transport for
Yep.
getting into anywhere.
Getting into anywhere. And it's probably the safest amphibious vehicle that we've ever come across, just because you can just dive into water and it just bobs or floats. You drive across. It's very stable.
Not tippy,
It's the Argo's amphibious as well, and the Hageland, and they're all awesome. The Fat Truck does the amphibious part a little bit better. Payload of 2,200, 2,500 is pretty decent for that kind of machine.
Yeah.
And I think they have plans in the future of making a couple different versions on top of the crew cab and pickup. So
it's 2,500 and it'll still float.
Yeah. Well, 2,200 in the crew cabin still floats, no problem.
Start staring at each other in the crew cab. It's like getting on an elevator, right? How much are you again?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, you shift to the left side. You go to the right side.
You go walk around this lake. We're going.
That's right. Yeah. We'll see you on the other side. Ratio.
And it can also pull a trailer too, an amphibious trailer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
So,
really? Amphibious trailer.
So-
That's so cool.
so-
and that's their creation or that's your creation?
That's their creation. So they built a single axle trailer with big Fat Truck tires, and then we took it one step further and built in-house a tandem axle trailer for bigger payloads, but we pull it behind bigger machines.
yeah.
So kind of neat. So
Incredible.
so that's the next one up, and then from there we go to the Hagelands, which is about 4,500 pounds to about 8,000 pounds payload, depending on the model. So we've customized the Hagelands, the green military machine with the 4 tracks. All 4 tracks drive, and it's absolutely incredible. I should have brought a little model of one, but the engineering, that's engineering from the 70s, and to this day, I don't know of anybody that's matched that engineering on an articulated vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a center link between the 2 machines. So you have the cab and then the rear. A lot of people think, you can separate it, but it's like a 4-wheel drive tractor. You have to have all 4 tires. So you have to have all 4 tracks.
So that
to
almost
drive
looked like a trailer that it was.
Yeah,
driving,
and
but-
that's what a lot of people think, and that's exactly what it looks like. But it's actually a 4-drive machine that you need all 4
connected
tracks, and then it articulates in the middle. And what the magic of this machine is, the link that connects the 2 is built out of spring steel. It's kind of a U shape if you look at it.
Yeah.
And if the front is tipped one way and the back is tipped another, that U-shaped steel twists up like a corkscrew.
Oh.
And
Wow.
and what that does is it's always forcing the tracks on the ground.
Yes.
It's hard to explain and visualize, but it's always forcing the tracks on the
I'm getting
ground.
the sense of it. Yeah. That's
So
kinda-
versus, I don't know if you've ever pulled a trailer behind a quad or anything, and the things always want to flip over on you.
Yeah.
This is the complete opposite. It's always forcing the tracks on the ground. And a friend of mine, I'm not going to mention, but he he owns one, and he flipped one of his upside down. The cab went up. He was going across a beaver dam, and the cab flipped upside down. The back stayed on its tracks.
Yeah.
And he called me, and I think this was a Sunday, and they were hunting. Hey, Troy, I need a rescue. So we went out there, I think the next day with another Hageland, and I looked at this thing and I'm like, holy shit, man,
How did
this
you do
is
that?
bad. And I figured that center link was going to be destroyed because it was literally twisted up like a corkscrew.
Wow.
So anyways, took a few hours. We got it back on its tracks and made sure the oil was back in the engine, started up, and that center link was perfect.
Wow.
Wow.
So the engineering for that, and then through that center link goes a drive shaft.
Right.
So you have to think of all the different angles that drive shaft has to
to
run
be able to operate on it.
and operate. And
That's incredible.
It's the magic of that machine.
That's cool.
So very neat.
It
So
sounds like the kind of guy that breaks a lot of his stuff.
yeah, yeah, he's hard on equipment, that guy.
So what was it, 4,000 to 8,000 pounds?
Yeah.
Payload?
So what we did is we actually get these refurbished and we put Cummins Cummins diesel engines in them,
Yep.
and we refurbish them like new. And then what we did, based off another military machine, is we made the back end wider and longer, and we increased the payload another couple thousand pounds.
Oh yeah.
So we can add attachments and more payload capacities and things like that. Bigger attachments, I mean.
And you said that they're amphibious as well?
Yes.
So they float?
They float and swim.
And the tracks will, I guess, propel it?
The tracks propel it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is-
It doesn't look like it would float.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? When
so,
you look
yeah.
at that.
And it's a little bit intimidating because they sit quite low in the water, so you can't open a door
Oh, okay.
when you're in the
Oh,
water.
yeah, so they're
And trust
sealed.
me, we've had guys panic and try to open the door, and we literally had to restrain them and say, "Hey, okay,
Yeah,
it was on
we're gonna sink.
hunting trips with booze involved, but
Yeah.
it's like sit
Don't
down,
open the
we're
door."
okay, don't open the door, we're all going down."
Yeah.
I think I've been invited on Sunday's hunting trip. It sounds a little nerve-wracking. Which one of Troy's machines can we strand? First guy who can roll
He
this
says
one
they
wins.
go anywhere.
He
Let's
says they can't
see.
be rolled.
But so they swim along with their track power, and they actually go like 5-6 kilometers an hour in the water,
Nice.
which is
Holy
it's
smokes.
pretty quick. And same thing, super stable. You steer nice and
And the cabs, of course, are comfortable, heated, air conditioned.
heating, no air
AC?
conditioning.
Oh, come
No,
on.
no, they don't get those air conditioning in the military. I don't think.
Is that something that anybody's ever asked you to add on?
Yeah, we haven't yet, but you
Looks
definitely
like
could.
it looks like the fat one had a unit on top or something.
The fat truck has an air conditioner, yeah.
And that's
Okay, I'm
so
sold
that's,
on that one.
looks like something that you might be able to.
We could probably incorporate it on a Haglund, but I mean, you can open all the windows. There's a escape hatch on the top. You can open up 2 escape hatches. You can open up and
Let some air out.
let some air or whatever. And
It's not much summer hunting, but I'm sure it's not really a hunting vehicle technically.
well, it's a good one.
For some guys.
Real good.
For some guys.
But,
I'm not going to mention names again. But yeah.
But it's a machine, and again, the hill climbing capabilities of some of these machines are insane. This thing will, if you get traction, it will like climb straight up because it's 4-track drive, and the back is, it's like 2 machines hooked together. It can't go over backwards versus like a 2-track machine can go over backwards. 4-track, the back track's always holding the front. The
That's
back
crazy.
caboose is holding the front down.
Gotcha. Wow.
So it will climb to your like
Yeah.
laying right on your back
until
looking
you're
straight up.
scared.
Until you're thinking,
Yeah,
yeah,
until
we're
you're scared.
going
So
over
it'll
for
keep
sure.
going. Yeah.
And it'll get you places where you shouldn't be, and if you do get in a bind, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, because you got to go down.
yeah, actually, I have a funny story. Can I share a story?
yeah,
in that regard?
yeah, for
So
sure, yeah.
We actually went on a camping hunting trip one time, and my buddy Chum and I, we each had a Haglunds at that time, and we loaded him up with some friends, and he had his father-in-law and one of his friends in, and we go across everything, but we were just going through cut lines, and we come across this wide open area, and we can see water pockets and swamp, and so we decided to just, let's drive across this thing. Well, we get out partway in this thing, and we're like, holy shit, this is a lake. And it's a floating bog lake. There's literally like a meter or so of muskeg
And it's water underneath.
on top of an open body of water.
Yeah.
And we're like, holy shit, this
gonna
is getting crazy. And then we get a little further in, and there's flowing streams of water and like little creeks and rivers through this thing. And we're, on this muskeg trying to find every tree we can to stay afloat. And then we dive into the water to climb back up. And
Holy cow.
it took us probably an hour to get across this thing. And me and Chum were, keeping the brave faces on because we're the captains, right? And we don't want to, and everybody else is kind of, really shitting bricks.
How are we going to get out of here if this thing doesn't
Oh,
get
yeah.
stuck?
And
And
I'm-
who's swimming or walking?
You
Or
couldn't,
couldn't.
and that's the thing, you couldn't swim, you couldn't walk.
Have to crawl on.
You'd have to call a helicopter if you could get out on a phone.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys take satellite phones with you when you go to do these
When we
things?
think of them, yeah. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but these machines handle it no problem. It was unbelievable. So we get to the other side, and Chum and I get out, and we go off to the side, and we're kind of quiet, and we're having a beer, and we're like, holy shit, man, that was crazy, right? Yeah, I can't believe we did that. And then one of the older guys comes over, and he has this open bottle of rum, straight rum, and he looks at us, he said, "You little fuckers, you're not taking us back across that again." And he started checking his rum.
We're going another
He was
way.
pissed.
Oh, wow.
So we had to find a different way around.
Yeah, no kidding.
And the crazy part is we look back and you can hardly see where we went.
Yeah.
That's
just
that's low impact. That's how
kind of
low impact.
folds back
these,
in and just-
and these machines don't tear it up. They're really easy on the train.
Yeah.
And so it was actually incredible.
Pretty cool.
So that that right there showed us these machines are it's
Everything
unbelievable. Everything that we need for play and for work.
for work. And I think, I mean, especially with the way that everybody's kind of on the environment side of things, I mean, to be able to go some places without destroying the terrain is probably a big deal for some of these large corporations that have to look at your stuff.
Deal. It's a huge deal. Yeah.
Yeah, for the big companies that lease them or buy them from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be under the finger and scrutiny of the public, right? So
Absolutely.
they can leave less of a
Like any
footprint, the better.
power transmission company,
Yeah,
I mean,
utility
these guys,
companies,
you got to be like,
Everybody nowadays is, and rightfully so. You should be.
so do you threaten them or what do you do? Well, I'm going to talk about you guys trucks. I mean, you just chewed that whole thing up getting there. You might as well have had something like this.
Right? Yeah. No, they're coming to us now.
Yeah, I was going to say, follow them around in your thing and just take pictures of the equipment and the destruction, and then go call their head office.
Yeah.
This is going
Who's
to
your
media.
customer relations guy? Media relations, please.
Well, we don't have to go that far. But yeah, we're getting some neat calls. We actually had a call earlier this week from a company that works in New Brunswick, and they do resource drilling.
Yeah.
And they have 9 different rigs that they're drilling throughout New Brunswick, and they're driving in with their pickups to these rigs, and sometimes the roads aren't great or they're chewing up the terrain.
Yeah.
So they're looking for 9 low impact machines to replace
in and out.
the vehicles, so that for the environment, so they're not going to damage the roads and terrain going in. So we're pretty excited because that could be a pretty awesome opportunity
no
for us.
kidding, yeah.
And I mean, when you're working kind of remotely, you almost think of what's the ones that keep having some problems, the Coastlink gas or whatever in BC. I mean, they're going through some pretty crazy terrain.
They are. Yeah.
They must be using something like that, or it looked like a lot of pickup trucks lying around. I mean,
We have a lot of equipment out in BC actually working
Okay.
on those pipelines, and so definitely they utilize a lot of low impact equipment when they need to, for sure. Yeah.
so is most of your business leasing, or is it mostly sales?
It's literally almost even between like our off-road services. So off-road services are when we send a machine out with an operator.
Yep.
So somebody will call and say, I have a job. Can you send a guy? Or send a couple guys and a couple machines, and we need to do this.
Okay.
So we look after everything. We look after the machine, the fuel, the maintenance, if we wreck it, all that. The other way we send a machine out is called dry rental. So somebody will say, I want to rent your machine, and I have my own guy to run it.
Yeah.
And then they take possession of the machine, and they're responsible for that machine while it's in their possession.
Okay.
And we don't have to worry about sending a person out to run it. They look after all that.
Yeah.
So the off-road services has been a third of our business. The rentals is now a third. And then our sales is now a third. Where it used to be all off-road services, now we've branched out, and it's really split. And our parts and support is actually starting to grow. So our parts sales are probably 10% of our business, and then the remaining is a third.
Yeah.
And our parts, we're starting to really ramp that up. We built a new shop now to be more organized and more professional with that.
Yeah.
Parts and service, and we think that's going to really take off for us too.
Is that a web-based one yet for your parts and services?
Not yet. We hope to. It's a
I think
big
that-
undertaking.
Yeah,
to get
I
set
think
up
that'd be
with
really cool. I mean, for the fact that you're the only dealer, call it, of certain things. You
yeah.
know, people from around the world, looking for
Absolutely.
pieces that you built.
Yeah.
Like imagine selling some of your trailers that you've built that can be added onto these things, and somebody who's in Australia doesn't even know. I'm sure some people fabricate their own stuff, but if you're building a quality thing, it's competitive. I mean, somebody might be, I saw this guy in Canada builds these trailers for this rig. Like, let's get a couple of those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and you can't speak enough about marketing because we've been doing this for 20 years or whatever it's been, and still a lot of people haven't heard of us.
Yeah.
Shame on us for not getting our name out better, but it takes time.
Yeah.
And that's important to get on the internet and do your thing.
I mean, with our 14 viewers, this is gonna fly, man. This is like the phone will start ringing. There's no doubt about it.
I think we have one follower on our YouTube account. So probably ourselves.
Did you become the follower there?
I meant to click follow. I got to do that after
We're
this.
going to double up as our
So we got to hammer
Jordan,
down
can
on
you
our
click on it
YouTube.
for us?
We got to help each other out.
That's
here,
right. Yeah.
No, that's
It's
funny.
like two
Cross
viewers
promotion.
promoting 14 viewers. Or it's just going to really go. Yeah. What's that add up to? 16?
And then the next vehicle, so we went Argos, fat trucks, Haglins, and then from there we go into a machine called a Maruka. and Preenoff Panther that are both twin track machines, and they have payloads ranging from a couple thousand pounds up to the 40,000+ pounds. So they're like the big heavy lifters of what we do.
And amphibious or
no, they're more for soft ground work sites, but not something you'd take out in a muskeg because they're bigger, heavier, and their track system is more built for muddy job sites and hill climbing and things like that. So taking them out into a swamp, you do more damage a lot of times than it's worth.
Yeah.
So, cool. But they're huge on utility. On like their Marukas and Panthers are huge for utility work, and we have a ton of them out on the BC pipelines right now on rento. Yeah. And you can equip them same thing with hydrovacs and picker units and crew carriers and all kinds of things. So they're really versatile as well.
And so, is that something you're fabricating to get to, or they have their own add-on parts?
We do most of it in house, or we source it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, betcha.
So you got quite a fabrication business then.
We do, and we use a small fabrication shop up the road in DeBolt, actually another small town located, and they're amazing.
My father-in-law's up there.
Is that right? Yeah. So they're super helpful.
DeBolt is like the show with the world's best washrooms right in between the two.
Is that? Yeah, must be.
Yeah, it is.
I just remember when we went up there, we had to stop there just to check it out.
Yeah. So we're fortunate enough to be a dealer for Maruka for sales and rentals and parts, and we want to increase our support for the Marukas because there's so many of them around, and we want to be a local support for parts and service as well. And then we're a rental partner for Preenoff, which is a company based in Canada as well. And amazing, like it's kind of the Cadillac of that upper end of payload machines, and easy to drive, steering wheel, gas pedal, and away you go. Anybody can drive it. Cushy seat, air conditioning, review cameras, and they're really nice to drive.
This is almost like a reality show waiting to happen. Yeah, you know what I mean with fabricating different pieces.
I feel like we should be following you guys around. Get a camera crew, just follow your staff yourself. Your day-to-day trip.
We've been asked actually, but I'm too nervous for that.
Are you?
I'm actually chicken to do something like that.
You're dipping your toe into this media thing now.
I think you're fine.
That'll be like the next Timber Kings or something like that.
Duck hunters,
like
not duck hunter. What was it?
Duck Dynasty.
Duck Hunter, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. That's
the game you played last night. Yeah, but I mean, they're always. I mean, half the show is they're playing around. Stuff, and that's, sure. I mean, you have the equipment to do some pretty crazy playing around stuff.
We're pretty fortunate. Like, we're so honored to represent the companies that we represent. Yeah. And I have another neat story that just happened last week. So, the Hageland's machine has, we call it an undercarriage. It's the whole track system. So they have 4 tracks and 40 road wheels and 8 sprockets. So it's a lot of parts that keep that thing moving and upright most times.
Except for beaver dams.
Except for that. And so it's been a challenge over the years to find replacement parts for these. So we've been able to refurbish wheels, refurbish sprockets, found a company that builds tracks. Mm-hmm. But the company that originally put the whole system on these machines and still does to this day is called Susi International, and they're based in Canada. So they literally have been putting track systems on these machines since the early 80s, or since the 80s.
Yeah.
Wow. And we've always wanted to be a dealer, and we tried a few times and we couldn't ever break into it. So about a year ago, Susi Defense, the defense department of this, which is crazy, called us. I was like, is this real? And they started asking us about their product and if we use it, and we said absolutely, we love it. The only thing we've had problems with is the sprocket design. It packs with snow and ice in freezing conditions, and sometimes the sprocket jumps.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, we've never been told that. Like, are you sure? It's like, yeah. I'm telling you, we do a lot of work with these things, and sometimes the track will actually fall off because the sprocket gets so full with snow and ice, and it has no place to go. And I said, we even built a prototype sprocket to replace yours, and it works amazing, but it's too heavy, and we don't have the capacity to reproduce this. So, anyways, we finished the phone call, and I don't know if he believed me. Mm-hmm. About a week later, he phones back and he said, Troy, you were right. He said, our sprockets suck. Wow. So they phoned a couple of the different militaries, and one was the Swedish military because I knew firsthand that they had problems with the sprocket. He didn't say they suck, but in other words, he said, we need to do some improvements on the sprocket. And then he said, you know what, we want to build a new sprocket and we want you to test it. So they literally built prototype sprockets, sent us a whole, like a $30,000 undercarriage package to test for the summer. And we tested them and like, in all different conditions, sent them pictures and video and data. And they loved it. And they said, yeah, we're gonna build these. So they literally started production on them. And I think we're going to get our first ones in a few weeks here.
Cool. And they've decided to let you be a dealer.
Yes. And then that was the coolest part. So then they started talking, well, do you want to be a dealer? I'm like, it's not falling off my chair. Well, yeah, of course I want to be a dealer. I've been wanting to be a dealer forever.
Yeah.
And then first we said, we started talking, Canadian dealer.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon it was US. And then pretty soon it was global.
Wow.
Because they're like, and this took a little bit of a process, but, and it was them, I think, not wanting to just keep focused on the military end of things and us to focus on everything else.
Yeah.
Governments and commercial type stuff and recreational.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I did fall off my chair. So I'm like, what? You want us to be a global distributor?
Yeah.
And I think it was a week and a half ago or so, they sent me the contract. And I remember coming home and printing it off and I'm in my home office, and I put it in front of me and I had a glass of wine and looking at this thing, and my wife's kind of staring at me like, Troy, it's not a record deal you're signing.
It's not your first
I was like, well, it sure feels like one to me.
In my world, this is my record deal.
Record deal. So I was pretty proud of that. So I signed that up. And thank you.
It's
so
really good.
Yeah, we're a global dealer for Sioux track systems for everything but the military. So
wow,
we're super pumped about that. And our contact in Sweden that we buy Hägglunds from is now looking at purchasing these to put on his Hägglunds there, of course, to sell to
fix the problems.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So super excited. So just can't say how fortunate we are for the different products. And then another company called Acela Trucks out of the U.S. we've been in contact with, and we went and visited a few weeks ago. They refurbish U.S. military trucks, and so it kind of bridges the gap from on road to what we do. It's kind of in between. So these are trucks that can drive on road, but also off-road in pretty severe conditions. Mm-hmm. They don't float or anything, but it kind of bridges that gap a little bit more for us.
Yeah.
And they're refurbished military machines, which means are refurbished trucks, which means they're tough. They're engineered the right way. And what they do is kind of tear them apart down, and they make the cabs more modern and more comfortable and nice seats and air conditioning and all the stuff that people want nowadays. And these things are amazing. 4-wheel drive, 6-wheel drive, and you can deflate the tires to get more traction and things like that. And
by a switch.
All automatic. So we're looking at possibly being a dealer for them. And I think we're well covered.
No kidding.
So then, I think we're covered for all the different categories we need to be and all the best products in those categories. So crazy fortunate, excited, and it's just, I'm excited for the future. It's taken really a while to set this up, and
that's amazing.
And that diversification has really helped us weather this last storm.
Yeah.
Previous to that, we had some pretty big struggles with some of the slowdowns, and that's what kind of pushed us into diversifying, I guess.
So slowdowns in the oil industry up here?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's some awesome stories, Troy.
Thank you.
It's great to hear about how a company can succeed here in Alberta in a real niche, kind of unique products like what you have. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what else you want to share with us. I guess, how did you get into low impact? Like, why did you start dealing in these types of machines that seem so rare and unusual? Like, what got you started in it?
It was literally my friend Chum, who the guy that rolled the machine.
Oh, I thought we were saying names.
Oh shit,
that's not his real name though.
Cut that.
The good thing, it's not his real name.
You got to know him very well.
Only certain people will know.
Only certain people will know who Chum is. Yeah.
Anyways, he phoned me one day, and he actually had rode in one on a job site, a Hägglund. And he phoned me and said, Troy, you got to buy a Hägglund. These things are amazing. Yeah. So I started looking. I actually found one in Edmonton, believe it or not. Yeah. And I bought it, and I started playing with this thing. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Yeah. So pretty soon he bought one. And then we just started doing the camping, fishing, hunting adventures, like the one across the open bog.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with this machine. I'm like, man, we gotta find a purpose for this. And then at that time, I was involved in my family's oil field construction company with my dad, and we did a lot of winter road building.
Yep.
So basically building ice roads across open, like muskeg.
Open bogs.
So you have to freeze the muskeg, and it's dangerous because we were using small cats or snow cats, and nothing floats if you break through. So you're risking people's lives. So I had a talk with the consultant, and he says, just try the Hägglund. pull some tires and take it out. And we use it, and it was the best thing to ever start a winter road with.
Wow.
Best thing, because what you have to start a winter road, you basically have to just go out and
Drive
pack
over
the
it.
snow in and get traction and pack the frost into the ground, drag tires and drive up and down the cut lines and freeze it in. And if you broke through with a Hagland, at least you're still floating.
Yeah.
Nobody's life's in danger. If you get stuck, no big deal.
Yeah.
Have another Hagland pull you out or whatever it is.
Call a helicopter.
Call a helicopter. So we started using it for ice road building. And then pretty soon we went up to Fort McMurray and we started doing like 400 to 600 kilometers of ice roads for this consultant.
Oh yeah.
And then, I was like, wow, this is crazy.
It's a business.
It's a business. So I tried to find more Haglands, and at that time, they're really hard to find. So I remember going on Google, and I was obsessed with these things, like completely obsessed with these machines. And my wife's going to hate that I say this, but she at one point said, Troy, you might as well just marry a Hagland. Because she told me not to say that.
Troy, why don't you just look at porn like normal guys?
Yeah, right? So I'm looking at Hagland. Yeah, it's crazy.
More Haglands.
So I'm trying to find a source of these things for longer term. So I'm on Google. And back then, this was like 20 years ago or whatever, 18 years ago. It wasn't like today with Google. It was a lot more, it was new.
Yeah.
But I remember searching, and I literally went to probably the 80th page of Google, which nobody does nowadays, right?
No.
Yeah.
But you would be surprised sometimes if you just keep going past page one.
Yeah.
So I'm on the 80th page of Google, and I find this military article about somebody in a company in Sweden that bought 600 Haglands directly from the Swedish military, a private company. And I'm like, holy, who the hell has that kind of money?
Yeah.
And who is this guy? I want to know him.
Yeah.
So after a couple more days of searching, I find the name of this company that bought them. And I found his email. So I emailed this guy, not even thinking I'm going to get a reply. Sweden, I don't speak Swedish.
Yeah.
Who am I? I own a
Some
Hagland.
guy.
Hey, translate
I have a
Swedish.
Hagland.
I have a Hagland. And I said, I heard you bought all these machines and I'd love to come visit you and see if, we could buy them or whatever. And he responded. He said, yeah, sure, Troy, come on over.
Wow.
I'm like, what?
No way.
Yeah. And, I've never been to Sweden. I was never to Europe, nothing, not even a clue what I was getting into. So who do I phone? One of my best friends. Yeah. Hey, chum.
Guess where we're going?
I don't know what I'm getting into. I don't know who I'm dealing with. I don't know. It could be the Swedish Mafia. I don't know. Who has this kind of money to buy?
Isn't that an EDM band?
Yeah, Swedish House Mafia.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So I had no idea what I'm getting into, but it might be good if I bring a buddy along. Yeah. And so
you brought the biggest bouncery type guy with you.
Yeah, exactly. He's pretty tough, that chum. Don't kid yourself.
I know that.
And so, anyways, we go to Sweden, and it kind of started out pretty rocky, to be honest. We kind of found out after the fact, it's of course disrespectful to be late anywhere. Yeah. It's even worse in Sweden. They're really, really punctual people, and it's extremely disrespectful to be late. Well, we were a day late to meet. This guy's name is Stefan. We were a day late. We get to Sweden. It were 9 hours difference in time. The phones at that time did not work. We couldn't dial for we couldn't figure out payphones. We couldn't figure out the train system. We were screwed. We were literally we don't even know what we're doing. We can't speak Swedish. We were we felt like two kids that didn't know how to take care of themselves. So we find a bar. We're like, okay, we know how to drink. We can order drink. Yeah. So we find this ice bar. The whole bar is built of ice, and they sell Swedish vodka. So we spend, I don't know how many hours in there in parkas drinking out of ice glasses at an ice bar and just get completely shit-faced and had fun. And anyway, so the next day we woke up and we're like, oh my God, we got to find a way to get to Stefan. And somehow we finally figured out, we phoned him and said, okay, we're trying to get on this train. We'll meet you there. And he didn't say much, but he met us there. So later in the afternoon, we get off this train in this little town. And we met Stefan, and he's this big Swedish dude with a black toque, wearing a black kind of parka. And we're like, and he's not smiling. And we're like, oh shit. And we're not really saying much because he wasn't saying much. Yeah. He basically that's my car in this big black friggin' Cadillac thing. Yeah. And we get in, and I'm in the front, and Chum's in the back, and we're driving, and it's really awkward.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Because he's pissed, obviously, at us. And he goes, like, what's wrong with you guys? Like, you don't know how to be on time or what's going on? And I didn't want to get into the whole explanation. I just said, Stefan, I'm so sorry. I said, we got drunk.
Never
And
been to Sweden.
he burst out laughing. He's like, you fucking guys. And then we were best friends and the party was on. So we spent a couple days just partying. He took us to his cabin, met his whole family and met his dad. And like, we just hit it off. And then, of course, it was like, all right, we're so sorry. We feel dumb. We just couldn't do anything when we got here, and we decided to just go to a bar.
No problem finding the only ice bar in town.
We found that place. And we just hit it off so good with him. And, that was the start of a multi-million-dollar handshake deal. We've never signed a contract. We've never did anything. And we've probably brought over close to 80 machines from him since then. Wow. And he literally says, if you need a couple extra, just bring them over and pay me whenever you sell it or rent it or whatever you want to do.
Nice.
Never a contract, nothing. It's all handshake.
That's really cool.
So really, really impressive and just an amazing guy and super nice. And
so what does he do with them all?
He refurbishes them, sells them.
And sells them?
He sells parts and machines all over the world.
Yep.
So he's the biggest Hägglund dealer in the world because of his supply of them.
Gotcha.
But what did he do before he got 600 Hägglunds then?
Well, his family they do really, really well. So maybe they are the mafia. I don't know. They do like really well.
They have other businesses.
Yeah, so they own a ton of real estate in Sweden. So, for example, I believe it's the Volvo factory. They own the land and the factory and rent it back to Volvo for 30 years at a time or whatever. So they own a bunch of those properties. His dad owns a mountain. Ton of real estate dealings.
IKEA.
And since that time, Stefan has bought a military mountain. So my second trip, we got to see this military mountain. He's bought a military town. He owns a town on a lake.
Oh, yeah.
That he bought from the military. And they own stuff all over Sweden. It's literally insane.
Really cool.
And some of the buildings that we went to visit on the first trip, there was like the big red barns that you see in Europe or whatever. They're all over the place. Well, you open up the doors and they're full of military machines.
Oh, yeah.
And we were in awe. I have a picture of Chum running across the tops of these machines. They're parked this close together, and there's like 201 building. Wow! Running across like the top of them like a kid. Yeah. We were just kids in the candy store.
And so they own those machines too.
Yeah, those were So he bought 600 of these Hägglunds at that time, and they were in all these different buildings, all over the place. Yeah. And his business was set up. He had a beautiful showroom. He has a bunch of old military equipment. He's kind of a bit of a fanatic as well. Yeah. And so he's got his own little museum. Yeah. He owns a tank. He's the only guy I know in the world that literally owns a working tank, a Russian tank. Somehow he got it in his name and over from Russia, and it's sitting in the front yard of his business. That's so cool. Like a full-on tank. Wow.
I'd say it's eccentric, but it's also kind of really neat.
It's really neat.
Sure, it's eccentric.
The stuff he owns, and I could go on for hours about visiting him. The second trip, I took another buddy, and we got to go see his...
Speak Swedish, the other buddy?
No, but he does have Swedish. He is Swedish, so it was kind of cool. We got to see this military cave that he ended up buying from the government. And what it is I guess through the Cold War, Sweden built all these military installations throughout Sweden in the mountains. And they were like caves, huge cave military installations, into the mountains. Yeah. And Stefan bought one because the military didn't want to upkeep him because a lot to keep him, operable. Yeah. And some of it was closed off, so they had a basement. They literally blocked off so you couldn't see it, so we don't know what was in the basement. We spent 2 days there, and we didn't see the whole thing. That's how big it was.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Like, not 2 full days, we were 2 days there, and in between drinking and goofing around. We explored this
2 hours of exploring and 22 hours of drinking.
But we didn't see the whole thing. Yeah. We walked around in different rooms, and some of these rooms were like literally the size of a Costco, and he had them full of Hägglunds and different military vehicles, like right full.
Wow.
They're like generator rooms, fuel storage rooms, like a generator room half the size of Costco full of generators and fuel tanks. And it was absolutely...
He's ready for the apocalypse.
It was the coolest thing.
Do you think Stefan would want to do a Smokin Bulls podcast?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. So
that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. We'd have you on and you could co-host it.
That would be so cool. Yeah.
And then the neatest thing was, he said, we can actually go to the top of the mountain. So he opens up this door and creaks open this door, and the stairwell you couldn't even see the top of goes up through this tunnel in the mountain, And we start walking up, and there's lights on the side. Something out of a World War II movie, honestly. There's lights, kind of flickering, and then there's water running down the path on the one side. Yeah. So we climb. We get to the top finally, and we're pretty tired, ready for a beer. Yeah. And we open up the door, and we're at the top of the mountain. There's a lookout post.
Oh, yeah.
Like a hatch.
And there was a bar there.
No. That's what we told them.
There's a six-pack in the snow.
Should be a fridge up here.
So we had to walk back down. But that was just incredible how cool that was. Yeah. And but yeah, I want to go back because he wanted to dig into the basement just to see what was there. We're like, okay, I can run a track. Oh, I can help you with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to want to figure that out.
Just the exploring part of it.
If he hasn't figured it out already.
Yeah, and how well built it was, like the concrete they used, and
amazing.
Like I can't even describe it. I'll have to show you guys pictures.
Yeah, you're
a chance.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I could talk for hours about over there. So what I get at the end of the day, just fantastic relationship we've built over the years, and now his son is involved in the business, so we deal with his son a lot. And he's just as incredible, and so
that's so cool.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious, like, to have a successful business, sometimes you have to be passionate about it, and obviously you've got a passion for Hagelands and this type of off-road vehicle. Like your wife says, you should marry one. And like, you've obviously got a huge passion for it, and that's probably why you're as successful as you are. Nobody else probably would have went to the extremes to create that relationship that you did out in Sweden. Like, travel there, meet that guy.
Crazy.
Like, you went to great extents to get it off the ground and running. So, kudos to you. And we're really happy that Low Impact is here in our province and being a success here.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it was, you take a risk and be yourself, be honest, I guess, when you meet somebody. And that's all we could do. We were, we got drunk, and
that's how this multi-million-dollar deal started out.
That's the takeaway I'm going to get from this.
Is that the message you want to put out for the world?
But it was definitely a big risk, and not having a clue that was nerve-wracking. But at the end of the day, and I look back and think, just the stories of it, and it's amazing. Such a good relationship.
So how do our viewers? How does anybody find Low Impact? Can we look you up online? What's a website?
Just lowimpact.com.
Lowimpact.com. Well, that's pretty easy.
Yeah, we got fortunate and were able to snag that website years ago, and worked out well. So that's the easiest way. Yeah.
Well, that's great. If there's anybody out there who needs this equipment or has questions about it, they should go to lowimpact.com and find Troy.
You betcha. Yep, find me. I'd be or on LinkedIn or Instagram, Facebook. We're on all three of those.
Right on.
And we're more than happy to make new contacts and meet new people and friends. And awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Well, thanks for being here on Smokin Bulls, Troy. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks.